Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Schenkel, and I am the chair of ANC2C. It's nice to have everyone with us in the room this evening and online with us tonight. I would like to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. And this is Monday, April 15th, 2024. This is not our normal ANC time. Our ANC normally meets on the second Tuesday, but we have gone through some transitions in which we have an opening on our ANC, and our third commissioner was not able to join us this evening as she is teaching a class. So apologies for that. But we do have 2 of 3 commissioners present this evening, so we do have a quorum, and I'll let Commissioner Lee introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Thomas Lee, Commissioner for 2C03, which includes Quarter and Virginia.
And I am the ANC Commissioner for Chinatown and Penn Quarter as well for ANC 2C01. I just wanted to quickly review our agenda this evening. There we go. I do have some agendas in the room. If people want to pick those agendas up, you're welcome to get one of those. We will start this evening off with some community announcements from our various hold on one second. You got it? Nope. Got it now. Nope, you're still on. There you go. Okay, perfect. We'll have some community announcements from our various government agencies, as well as the clean and safe efforts from the downtown bid. We'll move into some local events and activities that impact the community, in which we have 5 activities that we will be addressing this evening. And then we'll be moving on to APCA licensing, in which we have 3 applicants this evening that we will be discussing. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 14th. Commissioner, is there any additions that you have for the agenda for this evening? You didn't hit your button.
I do not.
Okay. Are there any community members that have any additions to the agenda? If not, I would like to move that we approve our agenda as published.
I second.
And all those in favor? So 2 of 2 commissioners present voting in favor of that. All right. We do not have minutes of our last meeting. We did have a little bit of a crisis that occurred. After our last meeting, our video was corrupted. However, tonight, as I log back onto our ANC computer equipment, I see that that video is now being produced. So we will have formal minutes at our next meeting, which will be in May. Treasurer's report. Hold on a second. Okay, sure. We'll just hang on for Commissioner Lee. We'll move on to community announcements. And I'd like to first call, I believe I saw Lieutenant Garvin on here. There he is, from MPD 2.
Good evening, everyone. All right.
Good evening.
Okay. All right. So, so as of right now, our violent crime is down. We didn't have any violent crime over the last 30 days. We've still been aggressively going against our thefts here. Over the last 30 days, I've seen a decrease from -3% to -40. And as today, we are a -61% decline. Very excited about that. It's a constant journey back and forth with these thefts, as you know. I always say that our top three stores or retail establishments that experience the highest level of thefts are the Nordstrom Rack, the Macy's, and the CVS on New York Avenue. We have been diligently being aggressive with more operations, our response times. I've been having units in the block. As soon as they leave an assignment, clear an assignment, they go right back. And we've been able to catch these suspects immediately after they leave the store before they hop the metro and get away from us. So I'm very, very excited about that. I feel like we're really treading in the right direction. I like what I'm seeing in that space. Also, we've launched our mountain bike unit now. So we do have a mountain bike unit who's going to be covering down in our PSA as well as other sectors in our district, tackling package thefts we may be experiencing and just being visible. I am a huge fan of the mountain bike program. I think it's more personable. I know a lot of times as members driving in our vehicles, we don't get a chance to speak to the public. You can wave, but it's not personal. So I love the fact that our mountain bike units can pull up, say hello, how you doing, hold conversations with you. People who want to speak to us. Also, people may have questions they can ask in real time, so we can actually get more information to them in real time in response. As of April the 13th, we have recovered 87. We've had 87 firearm recoveries. That is a lot. And I'm glad in those spaces. A lot of them have been during the club zone areas. A lot of situations where these individuals are leaving weapons, unregistered weapons in their vehicles in plain sight. And as they leave these venues, we make the arrest. So we have definitely have seen a lot of success in that space. I think last but not least, we have been giving special attention to our religious institutions. We are definitely aware of what's going on in the world. And we've been giving our synagogues. I mean, we've been giving special attention. We do have a lot of synagogues in the 2nd District as well as churches and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we've been having members go in, check in, speak to them, see what's going on, check in with their security advisors as well. We have a good form of communication or line of communication with them when they're going to have large events and things of that nature. So our units have been responded out. When they go out for calls for service, they have their equipment with them, which we call our civil disturbance unit equipment, because we never know what may happen. So we want to, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I believe that's all I have. I'm ready for any questions anyone may have.
Great. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Garvin. Did you say you had 87 weapons recovered?
Yes, we have had 87 total weapon recoveries as of January the 1st through April the 13th.
Wow. That always amazes me that there are that many weapons on the street. I think I would be probably shocked if I actually saw them all on our streets today. So thank you for that. Are there any questions for Lieutenant Garvin?
Lieutenant Garvin, you mentioned that there was a CVS that keeps getting hit on New York Avenue. Which one is it? The one on 11th Street or the one on 7th?
11th Street. So the one that's on 1100 block of New York Avenue.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We do have a question in the room. If you want to step to the mic so that Lieutenant Garvin can hear you. And please watch all of our cords and electrical equipment, all the wires that are around. It's a little bit of an obstacle course.
Lieutenant, thanks for the report. It was very encouraging. Howard Marks. I actually live in the first district, but I
Okay.
go into the second district quite frequently, like here. So First Amendment rights, okay? Big issue now. Especially these demonstrators or whatever you want to call them, blocking H Street at Lafayette Square almost once a week for hours and hours. So cars cannot get through, vehicles, including emergency vehicles. What is the line, Lieutenant, between a legitimate First Amendment right demonstration and being obstructionist and preventing emergency vehicles for getting to people who are in need? Thank you.
You know, that's a very good question because we do have a lot of unplanned First Amendment assemblies that do pop up. And what we try to do is we try to coordinate with our Special Operations Division, who reaches out to the districts where we can deploy manpower to do traffic control as well. But we also make contact with the organizers to see, you know, how long they're going to be out there, to make sure that it's peaceful. So we do keep a close eye on it. And I do understand that it can be challenging when it comes to traffic and, you know, impediment. But we try to do our best to make sure that we keep the flow of traffic going the way it should be, but also not impeding on people's First Amendment assembly as well. It's very delicate balance.
Let me just follow up. So what's it? So for example, my wife a number of years ago had to be rushed to the hospital. She almost died from septic shock. And the fire department ambulance got there in minutes, got her to Howard University Hospital. Her life was spared. It was just a matter of minutes. So we had a demonstration at 7th and H. I know it's outside your district, a number of months ago. And the whole intersection was tied up. And God forbid, if some person was going through what my wife went through, their life may have been lost. So at what point do you actually start making arrests? At what point you start telling these people you have to leave, getting out with the bullhorns? What about the rights of people like me, citizens whose lives are at stake? And so, especially when there's a dire emergency, and there was one, by the way, in our building today, an ambulance came. I don't know for what reason. Where a person's life at stake because the police refuse to move these people out of the public way. Thank you.
Usually when, well, first I want to say I'm sorry about that. Usually if we have people marching in the street, right, it is a planned protest, and we will usually have our special operations division have a trail car in the front and the back, but there's always a point of egress, just in case for emergency vehicles to pass. So, and we're very conscious of that. But again, most of these groups that we come in contact with, they are not adversarial. So we ask them to, you know, to move, or your group has to be on public space, but not on property. Most of the time, they do that.
Thank you, Lieutenant Garvin. Appreciate that. We have another question from the room.
I'll be quick. My name is Kent Cartwright. I live at 601 Pennsylvania Avenue. Thanks. I appreciated your report. My question is about the decrease in crime, and I wondered if are causes that you perceive for that. Is it part of a long-term trend, one hopes, or a blip on the screen? Any further insight would be helpful. Thanks.
I think 601 Pennsylvania Avenue would fall under the first district. But what I'll say would contribute to our decreasing crime, when I spoke on the thefts, is just following the crime trends, looking at the data, and just making these arrests, coordinating with the U.S. Attorney's Office, saying, okay, this person is a constant. For instance, the 1100 block of New York Avenue, we made an arrest, I believe, last week. Individual just took what he wanted and decided to leave the store, refused to pay. Our officers got to the scene and made an arrest. And come to find out, we were able to close an additional 5 cases with this same individual. So he's a repeat offender. You know, he's made a choice that I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna take what I want to take without paying for it. So we've been very aggressive in that space, saying, okay, just it doesn't matter if you steal a candy bar, it doesn't matter if it's toilet paper. We have to hold you accountable. We have to send a message. And I believe that it's starting to translate to others.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Garvin. We appreciate the update from MPT2. We'll move on to MPD1. And I see that we have Captain Herbenak on with us. I say that wrong every time. I apologize.
No, you did it right.
Oh, I did. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Oh, yay.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Lieutenant Garvin, for the start. Likewise, in the first district, we are seeing a marked decrease over the last 30 days, and in fact, year to date, specifically in PSA 101, which is part of 2C, we've seen almost a 50% decrease in violent crime in the Chinatown area specifically. And to answer the question of the resident earlier, what do we think is causing that significant decrease? It's going to be a number of things, and I think the number one thing is presence and active patrolling of our police officers. You all know that the Chinatown hub opened about 60 days ago, maybe even 90 days at this point. And that's really brought in an influx of both services from MPD, but also services from other agencies. And we're beginning to see the things at the hub bear fruit as far as interactions with the community. We partner still with DBH. They're actively seeing clients and our Health and Human Services agency as well. It's been a good base of operations for our foot beats, our bike beats, which will only increase as the weather warms. We have a very active Chinatown unit with some very go-getting young officers that want to make sure that the area is safe for people to enjoy and people to live. So we're going to continue to see their success there. We actually only had, I'm pulling the stats right now. We actually only had 8 stolen autos, and a lot of those are parking garages. So we're going to be working with our parking garage partners. We actually have a couple of walkthroughs with some of those. Most of those are on Massachusetts Avenue that we're seeing kind of the influx in. We only had 7 thefts for the area, which is great considering the amount of commercial properties that we have. We've seen those go down, notably at the Walgreens and the CVS over on New York Avenue, 6 in New York Avenue specifically for the first district. And we attribute that to our retail theft operations that we're doing with our crime suppression team. They're actually identifying repeat offenders in the area that go in stores and steal. We're identifying them and kind of targeting those locations where they've known to strike, so we can make sure that those thefts don't continue. As with most crime, we see thefts, violent crime. It tends to be the same people over and over and over again. So making sure that we have successful arrest and then successful prosecution. So we work closely with the U.S. Attorney, as Lieutenant Garvin mentioned, to make sure that those arrests aren't just done and then nothing happens. They're successfully prosecuted. We're using some of the legislation that was passed that allows us to charge felony theft for multiple thefts under a certain amount over a certain period of time, and then also theft felonies for thefts that are much larger. So we're going to continue those retail theft operations to kind of help out our businesses there and deter those thefts and kind of continue on that downward trend. And for violent crime, of course, we're going to continue to have that presence, make sure that our officers are out on bikes and foot patrols in the alleys and make sure people are safe as the weather warms up and people spend more time outside. And I'll take any questions. I'm sorry.
Thanks so much. And this is, I just thinking of a question for you and possibly Lieutenant Garvin as well. How has the drug-free zones been according to their effectiveness right now?
So we were the first, one of the first drug-free zones in the city when the DC Emergency Act was passed, and it was a matter of days before we put in that drug-free zone. We saw, well, what we saw was an absence of activity. So noted activities, especially in the 7th and H area and the alley surrounding there. We've had a lot of residents note that there had been activity there. When we put in that drug-free zone, we saw an absence of activity. So that tells us it's an effective tool. What we wanted to concentrate on and what we'll continue to concentrate on is we don't want to see displacement, right? We don't want to see, just because we have a drug-free zone at 7th and H in the surrounding area, that people move 2 or 3 blocks over and then terrorize residents of commercial establishments in the other area. So we're going to continue to use that drug-free zone kind of strategically in areas that are experiencing an increase to kind of quell any issues, but we're also going to keep an eye on the surrounding areas to make sure that people aren't just pushed. And that was what we actually saw. We had a number of drug arrests that were just right outside the drug-free zone, which tells me that my team is effective in pushing the crime out of the drug-free zone, but also we're making sure that those perimeter areas aren't inundated with activity.
Great. Thank you. That's very helpful to know. And I've seen that happening as well. I've seen, it seems like there's been an absence in the drug-free zones. So that's
Knock on wood on that.
yeah, no, totally knock on wood. Yeah. I hate to say it out loud, those things. Are there any other questions for for Captain Herrenbach? We have one in the room. Stand by.
Thank you, Captain. Howard Marks here, residents at Gallery Place. I'm the Vice President. Thank you for your responsiveness and raised that issue with you about entry to the parking garage at the residents at Gallery Place after events at the Capital One Arena, being some of our members of our community being denied access rightfully to their spaces late at night. Not really good. And I think you mentioned about you were going to be talking to the commander of the Special Operations Division, which apparently controls traffic, post-game traffic. And could you tell me a little bit of what this person said? I mean,
Yes.
so we don't have to, these people don't have to face this again?
Yeah, so I actually spoke with there. We kind of have a dual response for events at Capital One Arena. We have our Special Operations Division, which is headed up by Commander Jason Bagshaw, and then also my Lieutenant Nicely of our crime suppression team also has someone first district patrol response. So I talked to Commander Bagshaw, and what we're going to do is, he's going to disseminate that down to his troops because they tend to control the traffic right there at 6th Street and G and H, and to let them know that there are residents. I think there was possibly some confusion by some troops on the ground that that was a strictly commercial garage, and so that there wasn't the knowledge that there was residential or permanent parking. I think we've disseminated that. And that being said, if any of the residents continue to have a problem, you have my contact information. I work most evenings if there are events, and that's my cell phone number in the emails that I sent. You can feel free to share that, and we can kind of get that worked out. My hypothesis is that once we've kind of had a couple of people, work with the officers, say, hey, we live in this building, it'll kind of become more habit for those officers to realize that there's people. So I'll also let my 1D people know so that they can be that liaison to a Special Operations Division, so you all can get in and out of the garage. That being said, if there is a specific incident, say high traffic due to right as let's say a concert's getting out, so at 9:30 the concert's getting out, or 11:30, whenever that might be, there might be some very temporary traffic closures, but the commander did assure me that was the case for that. They would only be temporary. If you are seeing more permanent, say you're not allowed to turn, or there's cones up and down 6th Street, which as you mentioned there have been. If that still continues, please let me know so that we can get that fixed.
Well, thank you. Fortunately, the arena is dark after tonight for 3 weeks. Hopefully the Caps and not the Wizards, but hopefully the Caps will survive tonight and tomorrow, and the playoffs will begin. But this is really good news to our community. Appreciate your responsiveness. Just rapid fire, a few questions. You mentioned a 50% reduction in Chinatown crime. That's huge. Is that year to year or month to month?
That's year to date. So year to date compared to 2023 versus 2024. So January.
Beautiful. That is totally beautiful.
Yeah.
And one more question, and that's about traffic, not with the garage. So we're finding now at 7th and H, a regular pattern of motorists ignoring the do not turn. There's no turns allowed, as you know, at 7th and H in any direction. Yet they keep doing it one after another, like they deliberately. I actually pointed to the sign to one pickup driver, and of course he gave me, used a hand gesture, which I won't describe. So what do you think, what is the role of the MPD in enforcing those turn restrictions? Thank you, and I'll sit down.
Yeah, so I think there's two. We can do the traditional police traffic enforcement, and that's something I can definitely talk to my Chinatown unit about. Those restrictions are in place because of the high pedestrian volume at the intersection, so that people are safe using those crosswalks. And especially when we have the scramble, right, going across the street diagonally, we want to make sure everybody's safe. So those are in effect for a reason, and we want to make sure those are enforced. So I'll speak to my Chinatown unit about that. That's a easy fix on MPD's part. We can start doing those enforcements. The other thing I can get with our DDOT partners and at times there are what we call traffic control officers or TCOs in the intersection that can help kind of preventatively stop violations of that by directing traffic through the intersection. We'll see those when there's bigger events and stuff like that. So I'll get with both our Chinatown unit to start enforcement, and then our DDOT partners to prevent that type of activity. And I'm not sure, there had been talk about putting possibly a traffic camera there. I'm not sure where we are in those discussions. I will also hopefully by next meeting, have some information about that from our DDOT partners.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And Commissioner Lee, I didn't ask if you had any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Got it. Thank you so much, Captain. We appreciate you being here and all the work that your officers do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move forward with the Office of the Mayor, Ward 2 Liaison, Christopher Powell. Hey, hey, hey.
Can you hear me? Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Powell with the Mayor's Office. I just have a few quick updates for everyone. This past week, Mayor Bowser officially presented her fiscal year 25 budget and testified in support of the budget before the council. You can find out more at budget.dc.gov. This budget addresses the confluence of post-COVID factors that we are facing, like slower revenue growth, the end of federal stimulus funding, significantly higher operating costs, including a $200 million WMATA funding, and the impact of the ongoing remote work environment. This budget also makes significant investments in our people and our economy and focuses on the 3 pillars of long-term growth: public schools, public safety, and the downtown. On Monday, April 8th, Mayor Bowser and the Metropolitan Police Department launched the Real-Time Crime Center, which has been staffed by MPD since mid-February and is in part of Mayor Bowser's significant investments in public safety that were reflected in her 25 budget. The mayor's fiscal year 2025 budget fully funds MPD's requested hiring level to achieve a net gain in police officers for the next 5 years. And in line with that Real-Time Crime Center, they also launched their Camera Connect initiative, which allows residents and businesses to more effectively and efficiently share security camera footage with the crime center, and so they can distribute that to MPD to help close ongoing cases. So there's more information about that at mpdc.dc.gov/cameraconnectdc if you'd like to be a part of that. Just a quick announcement that this week is DC Public Schools spring break, April 15th through 19th. I left some information on the table about a lot of the activities and programs that will be taking place, as well as a one-pager for the budget that's Ward 2 specific. But it's a bit of a general overview. If you have specific questions, you can ask me, and I can try to get those answers for you. As well as the fact that today, not too far from here, Kennedy Rec Center had their grand reopening, and they'll be having some programming all week. So definitely go check out what's going on over there. And then coming up on April 27th, the Mayor's Office of Clean City will have their spring cleanup that will start at Kennedy Rec. So I'll be out there. A lot of volunteers and people will be out there. They'll have equipment, bags, trash grabbers, we can help clean up the community, a fun activity. And that about wraps it up for me. If there's any questions, I can attempt to answer them. But if you want to contact me, christopher.powell2@dc.gov.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Christopher.
Questions?
Do you know, I guess this is related to budget shortfalls that have been occurring. That businesses and storefronts that are currently vacant get a tax rebate because they are vacant in their storefront. And it sounds almost counterintuitive to me that it would be a rebate that they would be eligible for, or some kind of discount. Maybe it's not a rebate, it's a discount of some sort, versus getting them to really focus on renting the property
I see. So you're saying it's sort of incentivizing them for leaving it
to
open.
keep it open. And
Yeah,
I think that,
I'm not intimately familiar with that
Yeah.
item line. I know that, I think the mayor proposed, there's some sections in there for businesses downtown, if they rezone, I think even from commercial B to commercial A or otherwise, then they can have like up to 15 or 10 years deferred taxes on that.
Mhm.
So I know that's one of her like incentives,
right,
try to fill those spaces with something different. But if you shoot me the email, I
Sure.
can definitely maybe grab Jenny Reed or somebody and
that'd be great.
ask her.
That'd be awesome. Thank you for that, because it seems like it does sound a little counterintuitive to me.
Definitely.
It sounds like if we are wanting to get these businesses occupied again, that we would want to incentivize the market to change. And I know no one wants to lower their prices for leases, et cetera, but it seems like maybe we are overpriced as a market. And
Certainly.
this is incentivizing people just to keep things where they're at, and hopefully someone will come along.
That's a good,
to
very
rent
good
that.
point. Happy to
Okay.
shoot that up.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Lee, do you have any other questions? I don't. Okay.
I know we had a resident come in this afternoon to the hub. And I was told that they were supposed to start installing the lift, the ADA compliant lift
Right.
today or this week. And I just got a message right now that it hasn't started yet, but hopeful for this week. They do have the ramp there. It's a temporary one, so it's a bit cumbersome. So they moved it to the back, and if anyone needs it, they can move it to the front, but it posed a bit of a safety hazard at the size it was, but that is there at the moment. And I'll follow up personally with DGS on a timeline for the lift, but they had and tentatively thought it would start today.
Got it. So the lift is in progress and getting it installed. Yeah, it took a little time there to get it.
Yeah,
organized.
it's sort of like us and then the landlord and then DGS, and
Right.
then there's a bit of a swirl there, but
Got it.
trying to get it done.
Commissioner Schenkel, that was me
Oh, that was you? Hi.
with my, sorry, can't figure out why my video isn't working, but hi, I'm Nancy Groth, and I left my card with the gentleman there. I don't know what kind of ramp you think could span. There's like 3 or 4 steps in there, but a ramp needs to be a foot long for every inch it is high, which I would think would go out to the curb through the doors. And I doubt you have a ramp that long. So whatever you think you have, I would bet my condo that it's not safe. For sure. Also, there really needs to be a door opener, because there's no way to attract the attention of the staff inside, even with the all glass doors from the sidewalk, to open the door that many people physically could not open that door. So yeah, this is a work in progress, but we still have a long ways to go on
Thank you.
that.
Thanks for
So-
that, Nancy. I appreciate your comments, and we want to definitely make sure that these locations are accessible for our community residents. And I appreciate you bringing these up.
I went down at 1 o'clock this afternoon just to see, and before the meeting tonight, and sure enough, nothing's happened yet. I have another question for the gentleman from the mayor's office about the building at Green Court, which the city bought, that is literally abuts my seniors' residential building, that the city was envisioning as an emergency overnight shelter. I understand from the budget announcement in one of the hearings last week that it was said that there is no money in the budget this year for any renovations at Green Court. Can you confirm that?
This one I'm not intimately familiar with. I'm still unpacking the budget myself, but I can definitely find out. If you're able to shoot me an email on that one, I can get you an answer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Nan. Thank you for both of those questions, Nancy. We appreciate both of them.
I am nothing if not persistent.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Christopher. Do we have anybody from Brooke Pinto's office? Councilmember Pinto's.
Hello,
Maddie,
everyone.
how are you?
Good. This is Maddie from Councilmember Pinto's office. I'll begin by sharing a few updates. Since the last time we have gathered, a lot has happened, including celebrating that our Wizards and CAP teams are here to stay at Capital One Arena through at
Yay.
least 2050. Councilmember Pinto has remained steadfast in her support for a deal with Monumental Sports and worked to garner her colleagues' unanimous support for the deal back in December. The deal is $515 million, and which passed unanimously from the council last week. This deal will breathe energy and opportunity into our downtown through new renovations to the arena, additional opportunities for entertainment spaces and festivals, and commitments to security and safety supports in the neighborhood. We know that there'll be some changes in the area with renovation. So with this in mind, it's important to the council member that we protect and support our businesses in Chinatown. So the council member has continued to meet with both neighbors and developers to ensure that we can maintain and support specifically our Chinese-owned businesses in the area. So I'll share a link in the chat that will include some more information and context around this exciting development as well. As Christopher said, the mayor has released her budget, and we are facing a tough budget year. So Councilmember Pinto has questioned the mayor and her team during hearings in the past few weeks, and we are continuing to really sift through the fine print of the budget and will be fighting for Ward 2 priorities as the process continues this spring. I've said before, but Councilmember Pinto has three main priorities with this year's budget. The first being funding all of her Secure DC plan, specifically bolstering funds to support staffing at our critical public safety agencies. So we are pleased to see funding for MPD, OUC, the Office of Unified Communications, specifically to support violence interruption work and victim services already included in the budget. So we're thrilled to see that, but we'll continue to fight to support staffing at all of the public safety agencies. The second priority is investing in the reimagination of our downtown. We know that this is critical to the district's financial health. So this includes the $515 million to Capital One Arena renovations. It also includes advocating for downtown offices to residential conversions and a number of other initiatives. The third priority is fully funding WMATA. We have to have an affordable and safe transit system from the Metro and our bus networks. We're also encouraged to see funding for Councilmember Pinto's BEST Act, which meant to streamline the business licensing process and really make it easier to start a business in DC. And so we're also excited about $2 million in funding for literacy instruction materials for teachers to use in classrooms. So those are a few highlights. I will post Councilmember Pinto's full budget letter in the chat. It's 8 pages long, so you can take a look at the priorities that the council member has outlined specifically to the mayor. But as we continue to work through this budget and identify cuts, we're continuing to realign those priorities as well. Your input is critical in this process. I encourage you to sign up to testify at any hearings and express the things that you're looking to see funded. If you have any questions about how to testify, you can reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to walk you through the process. The council will be on a little bit of a break next week, but we'll resume budget hearings the week of April 22nd. I wanted to give an update on concerns regarding noise specifically around music at Capital One Arena. The council member has co-introduced 2 bills. The first being the Amplified Sound Mitigation Act of 2024. This has been referred to the Committee on Public Works and Operations, which Councilmember Nadeau chairs. This bill specifically addresses a lot of the concerns that the ANC has brought up with either musicians surrounding the area, and it addresses different levels of volume, and it has lowered the standard for what constitutes a different type of noise, amplified noise complaint. And then the second is the Harmonious Living Amendment Act of 2024. This also it's introduced by Councilmember Nadeau and co-introduced by Councilmember Pinto. This will specifically target entertainment areas, so targeting specifically areas like Capital One Arena. So these bills, what's next for them? They've been introduced, but we'll need a hearing on the bills to move forward. So if this is something that you support, we suggest contacting your at-large council members and emphasizing your support for these, specifically members who are on the Public Works and Operations Committee. I'll share all of these bill numbers in the chat just because I know that a lot of you care deeply about these 2 bills. So I'll share those as well. And hopefully that these bills are given a hearing by the committee before the end of the calendar year. And next, I'll just give a quick update on the cannabis emergency that Councilmember Pinto introduced to the council. We are extremely disappointed that this emergency did not move forward, but we'll be working on how we can continue to be supportive to BASIS parents and students and the ANC going forward. And it was really great to join MPD 2D and the Downtown DC bid and Edens from the task force on last month's community public safety walk. I learned a lot from the officers and will look forward to working with you all to have more outings like this. And the last thing I'll share is that we are planning our next office hours in early May for ANC 2C. This will be specifically focused on resident feedback that the council member will bring back to the task force as your representative. I did get your internet is unstable notification, so please let me know if I need to repeat anything, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I think we heard everything. You didn't break up on our end, so that's really great. I do want to thank the council member for introducing that emergency legislation for the cannabis bill. It's very disappointing that it failed and that our at-large council members in particular did not feel that it was important to prioritize children over cannabis sales. So that's a little depressing. Speaking of that, do you believe that Councilmember Nadeau will want to move this noise legislation forward? She has been not very supportive of community needs around these areas in the past. I'm just thinking that this is a stalled hopeless bid with her?
This point, it'll be up to the chairman and will be up to Councilmember Nadeau. Given that she did introduce one of the bills, we're hopeful that it'll move forward, but again, encourage contacting the members of the committee to emphasize support, and we will continue to advocate that these bills get a hearing. The committee members for Public Works and Operations are Councilmember Louis George, Councilmember Robert White, and Councilmember Trayon White, as well as Councilmember Pinto.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Mr. Lee, do you have any questions for Maddie?
Yeah, I want to bring up a resident concern with Councilmember Pinto. There's been some chatter on message boards from visitors to the National Mall about food trucks parked along 7th Street. A, they're noisy. B, they obstruct the view, or they're all in everyone's pictures of the Capitol building and in the Washington Monument. They're in the foreground of everyone's photos when they visit DC. Pricing is a little obscure. It seems like we need to do a better job. Now, yeah, with summer coming, well, obviously, your budget takes priority, but with summer coming, I think, the city needs to work with whoever's in charge, whether it's Park Service or, DDOT, to figure out a better solution. Perhaps have them park along Madison Avenue or the other side street that runs parallel to the National Mall, but let's see if we can get them off of 7th Street Northwest. That was the general consensus.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't heard that one specifically, so I'll be sure to bring that up with the council member and see who at the National Park Service we can check in about that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Any other questions for Councilmember Pinto's office? All right, I don't see any hands up. Terrific. Awesome. Thank you very much, Maddie. Appreciate you being here. Next, we will move forward with an update from the Clean and Safe efforts. And we have Lucas Umanya, the Director of Public Space Operations at Downtown DC Bed. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. My name is Lucas Umanya. I'm the Director of Public Space Operations. I've been in this role now 4 months, but I've lived in Washington, D.C. for 27 years. I say this a lot. What happens in downtown, the Chinatown area, really impacts the entire city. This role is very important to me for that very reason. So I put a lot of effort into this role, and I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for having me. A couple updates that we have that are really important. We just launched our safety team in the Penn Chinatown corridor. The role of this team is really to observe, report, and generate data through the use of our technology app that will allow our partners to really be proactive, not reactive. We're gathering a lot of data around here, dropping smart tags, which will allow our teams to really have an understanding of what's going on in the neighborhood. One other thing that is a very important part of this safety team that we launched is the building relationships. Our teams are doing daily business check-ins with all the businesses in the area. We believe that that's a really critical part of this, so we could get an understanding of what's going on in our neighborhoods. Also, as you build relationships, people tend to give more information. So that's a really critical element of this team. We're out here every day, 7 days a week. Depending on the day, it's either from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. or from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is a pilot program. Once we realize the success of this team, we will add more personnel to the team. We're also building partnerships with MPD, the Safety Hub, and other DC agencies. So that is, I think, a very important part of the success of this team. On the clean side, where we know that there's a lot of micro mobility complaints from constituents and stakeholders. That is something that we're continuously observing and reporting. We're working with DDOT right now to figure out really a tactic to clear up the sidewalks and also address the scooters that are parked in corrals along crosswalks. So we have an understanding that that is a element that people have concerns about. So that is something that we are trying to address with DDOT. And I think as time moves on, we'll be able to come up with some really good solutions. So we really appreciate the patience of all the constituents and stakeholders around here. We know that the nuisance that these really bring into our neighborhood. I constantly walk around with our team and we're moving them out of the sidewalk, picking them up because the reality is the sidewalk is for walking. Those they could be dangerous if someone. Many people walk around here with their head in their phones, and those could be concerns. So we are really putting a lot of effort into that. Light assessments. We're doing a light assessment of the entire neighborhood. One of the things that you can report through our technology app that our safety team and our SAMs are using is if lights are out, we're reporting them, and then we're generating 311 requests to try to get them fixed. We know that DDOT is putting a lot of effort into fixing a lot of the lights or getting them up to date with the right type of light bulbs in the Penn Quarter Chinatown corridor. So we're going to be the eyes and ears for all our partner agencies to really help them find out what's going on, and hopefully we could address them quicker. Graffiti, stickers, posters, parking signs, that is literally part of the everyday function that our teams do. We know that how graffiti that is not with intent is makes the neighborhood look. So we're going to continue to address those issues every day. And our teams are working hard on that. It's once we take them down, 3 more go up. So we know that it is challenging. But that is something that we are really putting a lot of effort into on a daily basis. And we will continue to work hard for our stakeholders and our constituents in this area. That's pretty much the main thing. Also, we have a Safety Alliance meeting specifically that we're launching on May 14th for the Penn Quarter Chinatown corridor. You could email me directly. I will leave my card and you could put it in the recap. If you want to join the Safety Alliance meeting, please send me an email and I'll add you to our listserv. The first one is going to be May 14th, and we're going to start doing them on a bi-monthly basis to start. We already do one for the entire bid, but this is going to be a focus on the Penn Quarter Chinatown corridor. So just wanted to make you aware of those as well. I'm happy to take any questions from anyone.
That's awesome. Is the app something that residents can use, the technology app, or is it just with bid folks?
So for right now, we're launching it with bid personnel first. We'd love to roll it out to our partners. We really believe getting critical data that will allow us to deploy our teams is something that all our partners could use. And then once we roll it out to that, there's going to be the end game is to roll it out to some stakeholders. That way they're able, the more people using the app, the more data we could gather, the more eyes and ears that we have. I think that's the way we're gonna address a lot of these concerns and really make an impact, is by having more eyes and ears being vigilant. The dashboard that we're gonna reveal to our stakeholders is gonna be a very important part of this. That way you'll be able to get stats, how many micromobility issues we had, how many 911 calls were placed by our teams. Anything that they're observing, we're gonna provide to our stakeholders.
Great. That's great. And just a question. How does I should ask this, does the 311 reporting that residents are encouraged to use, does that get back to the bid or not?
In the past, it did not, but right now we're working with our partners to start getting that that information. So now we could also be like we could see what's going on, what requests have been put in, and also if the requests are being completed. So that's the role that we're going to start taking with the 311. We put in a ton of 311 requests as well. We all know 311 at times tends to be months out. They're very busy. So I think we'll be able to help in at least figuring out which ones have been resolved or have not been resolved.
Right.
So that's the role that we'll play in the future.
That's terrific. Thank you for that. Commissioner Lee?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ben.
We do have a question online. It looks like from Peter Friedman. Friedman.
Thank you very much. This is a good presentation just now and appreciate the effort. And it's a endless, ceaseless battle I know you're engaged in. But on the graffiti, what happens? What is the enforcement? I know you can report on a lot. You can maybe try to cover it up, but does anybody ever catch anybody doing the graffiti? And if they do, what happens to the person that's, I mean, I know we're not Singapore where we put people in jail for 10 years for it, but do we do anything to actually stop the graffiti?
I cannot speak for what happens when individuals are caught. I know that from our end, every day we're tackling a lot of graffiti. We know how important it is to a clean city, and we know that clean and safe go hand in hand, right? So that is our approach. And I think those are going to be things that we'll continue to face and challenges ahead. I also believe that a lot of the art initiatives that we're really thinking about for the Chinatown Penn corridor will help with that. One thing that I grew up in Miami, and they've made art a big part of the community, and that really has changed like how people vandalize property. So I think as we use public art, I think that is one of the things that we could do to really slow down the graffiti, posters, stickers. That's the approach that we're going to take to it. And art is an important part of the work I'm doing in public space, whether it's augmented reality or street art. Those are all things that we're looking at right now to really beautify the community and bring a clean and safe perspective.
Thank you.
In terms of the graffiti, is there any particular area of downtown that's been especially problematic?
I think anywhere where there's open retail space, where there's not a lot of movement around, dark areas tend to be those places because it's if you have a lot of people moving around, it's very hard to tag an area. So I think those are the areas that tend to be most hit by graffiti. But the reality is a lot of the graffiti that individuals are doing is quick, and it doesn't have a purpose. So it's just get in, get out, and then the tag is done, right? Art on the other hand takes time, right? So that's the big difference. But no, it's everywhere. I mean, I can't walk around my neighborhood anymore without looking at the neighborhood the same, because the amount of graffiti that I notice now that I didn't notice 6 months ago before starting in this role. So I think it's just something that across the city, across the world is a challenge. And I know that we're not worried about the areas around outside of this particular area, but we are putting a lot of focus on really making it better. please, my email is lucas@downtowndc.org. If you have any issues or anything that you need help with, please reach out to me. I'm very responsive. And this is important. If you see something and you need any assistance, please reach out to me directly.
Thank you so much, Lucas. We appreciate that very much. I will say, Mr. Friedman, I think this is a great question to ask NPD, but I do agree that the tagging is so quick sometimes that you could walk in your house and walk back out and there'd be a tag instantly there. And you're like, what happened? How did that happen? But we can ask NPD that question to see if they have made any stops related to tagging.
Michael, would you add my email to the recap if you send
Sure.
out something, please, so everyone has it?
Absolutely. It will be on the recap. It is also on the agenda here tonight as well. And I can add that to the chat box as well during our next presentation. Thank you so much. We will now move forward with local events that impact the community. And first up is Throne Bathroom and its pilot's placement in downtown. We have Jessica with us this evening. And Jessica, I loved your little icon that represented you a little bit ago. So I think that was really great. So welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me. Can you see my face now? Just not only my icon?
Yeah, not only your icon, right? Exactly. We can see your face.
Awesome. Great. Well, I know that I'm going to want to be conscious of your time, and I really appreciate you having me participate in this meeting tonight. So I'm going to, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes, you have the ability now.
I do. Okay. Great. Excellent. I'm going to run through this at lightning speed, and then if there's any questions, we can come back to it. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm Jessica Heinzelman. I'm one of the co-founders and chief operating officer of Throne Labs, and we are revolutionizing and rethinking the way we do public restrooms as a society. So just very quickly, and I promise I'll go very fast. One, I want to touch on the DC Public Restroom Pilot Program and what it is, give you a little background on Throne and our community engagement, and then our proposed placement for the downtown location. So in the fiscal year 2024 budget, the council passed, and under the Committee for Public Works, passed funding for a DC public restroom pilot. This has been a long time coming. Some of you may have been familiar with other public restroom efforts in the past. And we have funding. We have been selected as the implementer for this pilot that has funding through September 30th, through the end of this fiscal year, with the hopes of extending through February 2025, if not beyond. Under the contract, we will provide our semi-permanent but portable and totally movable restroom units that are smart and tech-enabled, all cleaning and maintenance, so that's not on the district. We take care of that. All remote monitoring, hours of operation, and then we're also going to provide tons of data analytics on usage, maintenance, instances of vandalism, cleanliness, user feedback, etc. So just quickly about Throne, we set out on a mission to expand access to restrooms and wanted people to have less stress in their life when they're out and about, whether it's a visitor to DC or people commuting or living in neighborhoods. So we've built this really nice Throne. You might have used it down at Yards Park, or we had one on the National Mall last year as part of an advocacy pop-up. But in general, we've addressed a couple of major issues with public restrooms in general, and have had over 100,000 uses since we started in the DMV, so where we actually started and designed the Thrones, as well as Los Angeles, where we work with LA Metro. We are a turnkey service. We care a lot about our brand and want to make sure that thrones continue to be clean. People love them. We do all maintenance repairs. We have a 90% uptime that's defined by the amount of time that a throne is open and available, that it is actually either in use or available for use. And we have all sorts of cool things, automated anti-loitering alerts, and we do provide, real-time community support. So someone can text or call us at any time and ask questions. We are tech-enabled, so we use behavioral science and technology to keep these nice. We do that in a couple of ways. One, by a unique user ID to enter. So we can actually warn people, restrict access if they're doing things like staying too long or smoking inside. We have all 21 different sensors on the unit that tells us what's going on. And people enter with their phone number or a unique user ID with a tap card. And we're working with DHS and their contracted partners to identify individuals that may not have access to a phone or reliable access to a phone to get these tap cards that allow them to enter, but still can be turned off if we see considerable misuse. We have responsive maintenance, so we use data on usage, cleanliness ratings to project and schedule cleanings, but we also receive real-time feedback from users. So every time a user enters, they're asked for a cleanliness rating. We see about 33% of people provide a cleanliness rating, and we're able to then use that to inform operations. If a throne really needs attention badly, or there's a health hazard, we can actually shut it down remotely and send somebody out to clean. In this case was a real incident where someone defecated in the urinal. We shut it down and sent our cleaner out. They are fully ADA accessible. They exceed federal standards. And we, have other features in there too, like a baby changing station and free menstrual products and things that make it great for everybody. Our goal is to be lovable. We can move it anywhere. We can deliver it and take it away just as fast in a matter of hours. So these initial locations that we're proposing under this pilot are also, partially testing these locations and may not be the final locations where they end up. It really depends on community feedback as well as data. We will also be providing all sorts of data. We're super transparent. It's all anonymized, lots of data privacy protections, but we aggregate and anonymize data to help cities understand where bathrooms are really needed, and how people are using them, like what times of day, what days a week, et cetera. And that's really to help kind of optimize and plan. So if there's one location that really needs bathrooms, we can add another throne. If there's one that they thought would be useful but isn't really driving a lot of value, we can take that funding and put it to a new area or location. Generally, people love us when we do surveys or just the inbound text messages we get. People are super positive, super thankful for a place to go, and we have a lot of repeat users. So yeah, feel free to contact me at any time. It's jess@thronelabs.co. Around the DC pilot, we've done some engagement. We had an article in the Washingtonian that linked to an online survey that was also circulated through social media, some of the bids, some ANCs. And then we've also been reaching out to ANCs such as yourselves to present to them and also gather feedback. I'll just skip through this. For the specific locations that we're going to talk about, we worked closely with the downtown bid and Lucas, who you just met, to decide, where the first location should be for a throne under this pilot. There is one that is slotted for the downtown. The technical boundaries are within the boundaries of the downtown DC bid. The bid looked at kind of their data around where there are a lot of people coming and going, but then also where there was enough space to house a throne and kind of meet the requirements for a throne restroom. Just very quickly, they are spacious because they are fully ADA. They meet ADA standards, so they're about 7 feet by 8 feet. They weigh about 3,200 pounds. No one's going to knock this over. And they are really designed in a modular way to be anti-graffiti as well. We have a number of kind of design features that have that we've developed over time as we've learned. And then they require either access to solar or a 120 volt plug-in. Primarily, it requires solar only. Most times of the year in periods of freezing, it may need to be plugged in. Initially, under this pilot, it's 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. As operational hours. There's definitely potential to expand. We're willing and able to do that. So the proposed placement for the downtown is around Indiana Plaza, so the corner of 7th and Indiana, kind of right across from the Temperance Fountain. We've been working with DDOT. We actually took a handful of locations to DDOT, and most got nixed and or were National Park Service land. And so what we're looking at here is it is, along the sidewalk, along the curb, there's a manhole cover right here that we cannot cover. And then there are trash cans and a tree bed. We originally had it closer to the tree, but DDOT actually wanted it farther away from that tree to avoid any maintenance on cutting branches and things like that. So I can come back to this, but if you can see here, this is a footprint that we have that we put down to kind of help show how much space is left. One of the requirements is that there's still a significant amount of space where people can pass through, even when the ramp kind of jets in here. And I think the other thing we liked about this is nobody is going to, it's going to be hard for somebody to walk into this ramp because they will have not walked into the tree that comes before it. So again, and I think it will look something like this. So we are working to get this. We have submitted this proposal to DDOT. Under the normal process, the bid or the ANC would have a 45-day comment period, and we would actually get on the late June public space hearing, and we would be able to put this down in July. We have great support from various council members, including Councilmember Pinto, to move more quickly. We find in our data that restrooms are most valuable to communities in the April to September timeframe. When it's warm, people are out, they're in parks, and we want to get this down as quickly as possible. DDOT has told us that if we get a resolution passed by the ANC, and Columbia Heights ANC 1A and DuPont 2B have both passed this resolution to basically waive the 45 days of comment period, and also provide support for this specific location. If that's the case, we can get on the April 25th public space hearing and hopefully have this out and live and ready to serve the community and reduce public defecation by sometime early May. And I believe that I provided a draft resolution in case that was something you were interested and willing to do. I'll stop there.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate this. Just out of curiosity, why 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? Oh, 10
7 a.m. to 10 p.m. That is just kind of our standard, but we in the DC area, but we can definitely expand that if there's desire. I think all it would take is we can do it very easily. We would just want to pass it by DPW and let them know that so that we could change it in the contract.
Got it. And the other concern that I have is individuals potentially using the restrooms and overdosing. What happens after that 15-minute period? Does the door swing open? something
Yeah.
alarm?
Yeah.
Like, have you had that experience?
Yeah. So in LA, where we have, we partner with LA Metro. We have a couple of pretty rough locations. One is across the street from a homeless encampment. We've been there live over 6 months now, and we've had one drug related. I wouldn't go as far as overdose, but somebody passed out in the throne and then did come to on their own. But they, I'll walk you through what happens, and they were fine. But it is actually when you walk in, there's audio. It's a very cool experience. It says "Welcome to Throne" in both English and Spanish. It does tell you at that time that your use is limited to 10 minutes, which is a very standard for public restrooms that limit use time. That is industry standard. There is also visual signage that says this. And then at 8 minutes, there's a very brief warning. The light flashes once, an audio message plays saying, "Warning, like you're approaching the end of your use. It's, please, start preparing yourself to move on." The door will open at 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, the lights flash gently. There's also audio that says, your time is up, both again in English and Spanish. Your time is up. Please move along. The door is opening now. And then at 10 minutes and 20 seconds, the door does open, and it stays open until the occupant has left. And we find that even at this location, in these locations in LA, where we are across the street from a homeless encampment, that we 6% of people leave within 15 minutes. There's a huge drop within the first 2 minutes of that exit strategy. We also send a text message for those that have entered with a phone, providing a warning, saying, this was an overstay. If it happens repeatedly, we can revoke access. And for those that repeatedly try to stay, we actually cut off their access. So in this case, if they had a card, we would report back to DHS and say, "Hey, this card number has been cut off," and they would go talk to that person. And if it was phone, we would, send a message, and that phone number would no longer be able to open the throne. The value of that opening door is both to move them along, but also if there is a health issue, in the case that I described before, that someone is able to come along and see them lying there or in distress and call EMS. We are working on additional technology that would actually be able to detect heart rate and things like that while inside, but that is not ready to go yet.
Got it. That's very interesting. This is a very cool product.
Thank you.
For certain. Commissioner Lee, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Hey, Jessica, we chatted before when I got your email about this.
Yeah.
Could you, let me ask you a question. Why this intersection, not say across the street? I think I know the answer to that, but I want to hear what you have to say. Like, why this side and not the other side?
I am not sure. I would have to check with our ops team, and I don't know if Lucas is there, if he has a input on that. But I know that it was somewhat difficult to find locations that met DDOT requirements around traffic visibility and safety, the ability to service it, and solar access, things like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether there was like some opposition from the businesses not wanting to have this directly right in front of there's a Starbucks right across the street, and I'm wondering whether we wanted to be sensitive to their customers not having this right in front of their shop. But I guess, but anyway, could you go back a few slides? And I'd like to see the exact, yes. So I guess I see the box, and I see the ramp, and I see I guess there's like a little landing area. I see the tree box, and I see that there's two round things. Those are trash receptacles.
Those are.
What was the request? I guess DDOT wanted this to be 3 feet away from the tree box. Is that correct?
Correct. So when we first went out, we had this
the throne footprint pulled back to kind of be an L and like wrap
Yeah.
around the tree.
That makes
But
sense too.
we liked it too. I think the concern that DDOT had was, they have all these different agencies that participate and give their feedback. And the landscape architect likes to have at least 10 feet between the trunk and any sort of street fixture, because they don't want to have to come out and trim the trees if it's in the way of some furniture that is not theirs, I think. But basically don't want to have to because not all, they might damage a tree by trimming it at the wrong time or have constraints put on that tree health that wouldn't otherwise be there. So that is my understanding, but.
Yeah, no, I guess I understand what you're saying. So I spent some time there this past weekend. There is a bump out. So the way that you have the sidewalk drawn, I don't think it's entirely accurate because it does jog in a little, like right after right after the trash cans at the top left hand, it jogs in a little. So your drawing is not completely representative. But
right.
One concern is that the way that you have it there, and I think, I'm fully in support of this. I think, the only concern is that, is that the best location for that? I mean, as you can see on the top left-hand image, it's almost directly, next to the intersection. And so people trying to cross the street will come within a foot or two of this thing.
Right.
So I do I think we should go back to, who was involved with, who didn't want it next to the trees?
DDOT.
DDOT.
Yeah. I think
It
the
just seems
Department of Landscape Architecture. Yeah. I think they're not going to budge on that. So.
Because it does make the trash receptacles harder to get to or harder to see if you have this thing directly, you won't see the trash receptacles there. We may have to we may have to move the trash receptacles if that's the case. And, I'm not crazy about the current location because it's just right on the intersection and right on the crosswalk. But okay, that's only the concern to me. I live a block from there. I'm very familiar with that site, and it just seems like there's a lot of space there. And we just need to fine tune the exact location for this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it was pretty clear that they were not going to budge on the putting it back towards the tree. I think we got it in a position where we were kind of like everyone was kind of making trade-offs. I will say this is definitely we would like to get this out quickly to make sure that it's collecting the data, showing how valuable a bathroom is downtown during these critical months. I think if we were to go back right now and revisit this location or specs on this location, we would be looking at earliest probably a July deployment instead of a May deployment. But that said, I think we are not, and the council member, and I don't think the bid is definitely committed to this location forever and ever. So if it's something that you're willing to support for now, see how it goes. We're a very friendly organization that wants to work in good faith. And it's in our interest to make sure that people are liking this and are happy with it. So I'm happy to work with you to find another location and get that through the process for a move. And then, at the end of the day, if we're being, stubborn, which I don't think we would be, but DDOT can revoke our permit at any time. And I'm sure if the ANC asked for that, that would be a recourse that you would have within your toolbox.
And just correct me if I'm wrong here, but where the blue is on your picture that you're currently showing, that is the railings and open space, you could see through the railings. It's
right.
It's not
so
going
it's
to be like a solid wall.
No, it's a standard ramp that meets the ADA criteria of 1 inch per 1 foot. And then this landing is 5 by 5, which is the amount that allows a wheelchair to turn in a radius.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Is there any community questions or input? Please.
Hi, I'm Kent Cartwright. I'm from the Resident Executive Committee at the condominium building, which is really right up Indiana Avenue. The official
Okay.
address is 601 Penn, but the actual address is 600 Indiana Avenue. So that
Okay.
picture you showed pointing up Indiana Avenue, we're on the right-hand side of this. Your business seems wonderful. This is a wonderful organization. You're doing really good work, and we basically support this project. Our concern was kind of expressed by Commissioner Lee. Is this the right place for it? And I think our interest is to some extent aesthetic. When that big bathroom is placed on the corner, it just completely alters what is a really nice little plaza at the corner of Indiana and 7th Street. From some directions, it'll completely block out the two monuments. It really will dominate one's sense of that space. It's already a little trashed up with those portable swings that are there. I know the city belongs to a lot of people, not just us, and there are a lot of users and a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. But we're worried about the aesthetic effect, and is this really we don't know what the alternatives are, of course, but we're concerned about the aesthetic impact. And I should say that our manager, Elizabeth, is here too.
Hi there.
Okay. Hi.
One other thing in addition that I would add, I've been coming to the building at work. I live in Virginia, but I come into DC for the past 16 years at this location on Indiana Avenue. And I think for me, that particular corner is really, although it appears from the picture that there's a lot of walkway space, we walked it again today. And when that place gets really busy, I'm really concerned from a pedestrian safety perspective. If somebody is walking, say, for example, from our building, coming down to maybe go to the metro, go to Starbucks or whatever, if you are forced to walk around it, and I will say right at that fountain, sometimes there are large groups of homeless people that are there, and you may not want to walk into that. So I could see somebody going, maybe crossing a little early, maybe, ahead of the crosswalk. And I have concerns that somebody making that right turn onto Indiana, boom, people could hit each other in that location. So from a pedestrian safety perspective, I do have concerns about that location.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you for.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the other side of the street is federal, if I'm correct in my thinking. That's Navy.
Like closer to archives, is there any space over there, or?
I believe that is Park Service. Park Service.
All Park Service.
Location on the other side.
Yeah.
I have one question. If it's Park Service, is it absolutely impossible? I mean, can't the city ask the Park Service to accommodate this?
They won't do it.
They won't do it. I mean, because there's a lot of Park Service owned land around there. So the district is that one little corner, it looks like.
One little corner, yes.
Yeah.
Extremely challenging with Park Service to do anything, even to put like a bike stanchion
Really?
on Park Service property we wanted to put stanchions at the Apple store in the Carnegie area, and that's Park Service, and they would not allow them to be put in those areas. These are really great questions.
Can I ask just one more? This is strictly a question too. Does putting the public toilet there will it attract homeless to that corner? Will it make it a homeless encampment? Well, yeah, is that, that would be the long, the large version. But I'm just interested in the impact. So those are our questions, our concerns.
It's a really great question, Mr. Cartwright. Jessica, have you noticed in your other cities where there are LA, for example, where there's a large homeless communities, does have the toilets attracted homeless individuals for encampments?
They have not. I know that that is a concern in general with public restrooms, and I think it's part of the reason for like looking at kind of in the same way Lucas described graffiti. Like if there are issues, like if we put this down an alley or we put this somewhere that is a little less visible, that's actually when you're going to start attracting visitors. But you know, as it is, like near a metro station, near a lot of bus routes, near a lot of pedestrian traffic, it's less likely to attract you know, just what we would term loiterers. If you already have some that hang out across the way at the fountain, it's not going to deter them from being there probably, but I don't think it should bring more people in. And if it does, if that's what we end up finding, like that's the beauty of our solution, which is unlike some of the other restrooms that the district has looked at in the past that have to be, you know, connected in with water and sewer and are very permanent, we can come pick this up in a matter of hours. You know, it's just a matter of getting, you know, deciding with DPW and with DPW and the ANC and others that we want to remove it. So I will say, I think this is temporary. Time is of the essence. Now is the time that it's truly needed. We are very open to trying different locations. It's not a big commitment. You're not committing to having a bathroom here for, you know, in perpetuity.
And the pilot runs through when? Through February?
The pilot is funded through the end of September. It technically runs through the end of February. This location doesn't have an obvious plug-in, and we actually do need to plug it in during freezing temps. So I would imagine it would move before February anyway. This is on our short list of locations to find another, like a winter location as well. And, you know, totally within your rights too, if you want to say, hey, we're cool with approving this through, you know, the end of September, and then we'll revisit or something like that.
I think that part of me, I completely hear the concerns, and I too share some of those concerns. I know that we have for a long time been asking for more public restrooms or a public restroom in downtown DC. And I think as a pilot suggestion through potentially the end of September, I think that I would be in favor of supporting that as long as we are presented with the data as the ANC to determine you know, that we can see the data and see, is this working, and to garner community feedback in the process. So that would be something, and I'm assuming, Jessica, you would be willing to provide us with a report or come back to us in September and say, hey, this is working, this isn't working.
Absolutely. And I think we would actually love to come back as, you know, before that, and probably multiple times. We will be providing, I think it's bi-weekly, so every other week, reports to DPW. That won't include everything, but the final report will have, you know, misuse numbers, loitering numbers, all sorts of maintenance, cleanliness ratings, all of that. And I think we can definitely provide data in the interim as a regular course of business. We will be also sharing out on the DC Public Restrooms website, which is a advocacy group for public restrooms, that will share the website with you. And then would love to come back maybe a month or so into the pilot or 2 months into the pilot and actually get feedback from you as well, whether that's during a meeting or offline. But absolutely, we are a learning organization, and we look forward to learning from you all who live around it as well.
Got it. I do see that. I have 2 additional hands up, and I apologize
Sure.
for not noticing those earlier. Mr. Friedman?
I don't want to interrupt the kumbaya feelings here, but this is, and I think you know it and everybody else knows, this is an aesthetic catastrophe for this neighborhood. This is a beautifully laid out set of streets that comes right off Pennsylvania Avenue, right next to a park, across from the archives. And to put this monstrosity in this location creates safety concerns because there isn't that much room around there. During the summers or other times, this is where a lot of tourists move through. And I don't understand what the landscape, I think I would have kept my mouth shut if I was responsible for the landscaping there, and specifically that tree. That's an abomination. If I was responsible for maintaining that tree, I would not have objected to anything. That should be rejected just by looking at that tree and the trimming. But the fact is that this is already a place that is visible to many residential, 2 big apartment complexes, condominium complexes, and you have a fountain there that's of historical value, that Temperance Fountain. You already have problems with some homeless people and people hanging out that we don't want hanging out right there, and this makes it more attractive. And I just think in the National Council of Negro Women building, it's also historical. This is an abomination, and I'm just going to straight out say it. I don't think it should be permitted there. There are other places you can put it. I know the Park Service doesn't want them, but there are other places. This will significantly detract from the neighborhood and reduce the values of the commercial and residential spaces around here. Nobody wants to live right by a public restroom, right smack in the middle of a very busy sidewalk.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You want more?
We have Kasha here as well.
Hi, this is Kasha. Is there a fee to use it?
There is no fee. No, it's free.
Okay, thanks.
Great question as well. I would like to move that we send a letter of support for this pilot location through the end of September 2024. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Lee. All those in favor? Raise your hand. So 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor of that. With that, Jessica, we would want you to come back and report on the status and to hear any community concerns that arise from this. I'm assuming once you actually get the facility there, there'll be potentially some finagling with it at the site.
Yeah, and would be happy to have you there. I will follow back up with you as soon as we have that permit and we have a date, just so you know. And then we can also decide what the right time is to get us on the next meeting. So there's enough time that people have feedback to share, and we'll set that up.
And you would think that you would say that you would potentially be on the April 25th DDOT agenda for this location. What when do you believe that you would put this down?
I am still learning the DDOT process, so my hope would be early May. We have a unit ready to go, so it's really just a matter of making our way through that process.
Got it. So it's dependent on DDOT and their final blessing of this particular location.
Correct.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
We will get that letter off. I do want to just acknowledge everyone. I hear your concerns very much. I know that the need for public restrooms downtown is huge. As a pilot, I think we should try this and see how this works with the option to relocate it, which I think that's the beauty of the ability for this, is to have it relocated if needed in that process.
And I will add, I did share my email address. Feel free to reach out to me. There's also a phone number on the front of every throne that you can call or text and get to a community support person as well. So if there's an immediate need, you can reach out that way, or you're always welcome to reach out to me as well.
Got it. Thank you so much, Jess. Oh, sorry.
Jessica, before you go, I wanted to just point out, I'm wondering, across the street on Pennsylvania Avenue, and this is maybe for the future, if there is a very deep corner where the Federal Trade Commission intersects with Pennsylvania and 7th. There's a lot of space there. It's equally busy with, pedestrian traffic, and you can look at it on a Google Maps right now or Google Streets View. That may be a better location just because there is lots of space and it's, you still get the same amount of pedestrian traffic, but it's, but it is being more sensitive to the local residents.
Okay, great. We'll look at it. I know that one of the challenges we were having was the amount of federal land that is downtown. So, but yes, definitely we'll look at that. We'll also, we have the whole area that the bid controls open to us. So if there are other ideas of specific locations, we are all ears.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. Next on our agenda is build social housing in DC, Metro DC, DSA, and I believe we have John with us this evening, who is presenting in place of Ben, if I read that correctly.
You did. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for giving me some time. I think, is it possible for me to share my screen to do a quick presentation?
Please.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much for giving me a little bit of time. My name is John Kwa, he, him. I'm an organizer with DC, Metro DC DSA and DC for Democracy. And I have been helping volunteering with the Green New Deal for Social Housing campaign. And we are just talking to ANCs as part of, partially to garner support among ANC commissioners for our push for social housing in DC, but also to kind of just do broad level community engagement and get people acquainted with the idea, because it's a new type of housing policy that I think hasn't been seen in America that often, and also to take in questions, concerns, thoughts, things like that as we continue to campaign. So I will just do a quick 5-minute presentation. I'm just sharing my screen. Great. So yeah, so we have been fighting for the Green New Deal for social housing. It's a bill to create a social housing department in DC for the last 3 years, 2.5. I don't want to harp on this too much, but I'm sure y'all know that the city, as many, many American cities, has been in a housing crisis for a very long time. It has many really incredible solutions, but has also fallen behind in some critical ways. Namely, we, for over 2 decades, we're kind of one of the top ranked cities for gentrification, particularly for our Black residents in the city. We have not built enough housing and need more of it. We in particular have, consistent analysis have shown we are lacking housing for middle income and low income families who really build up, the service sector in our city, teachers, nurses, a lot of the families that we just on an ethical level want to keep in the city, but also help the city functioning and flourishing. We also have a crisis in our public housing units, mostly the ones that are funded through federal funds. Last year came out that 1 in 4 public housing units sit vacant, and more than 1 in 10 DC residents right now are housing insecure. What is social housing? So social housing is a concept that has been taken from successful models, particularly in Europe and Southeast Asia. It's a form of publicly owned housing, owned by, in our case, the city itself, who is the land acquirer, the developer, and the landlord. It's mixed income. It differs from how most American public housing has gone, in that units are rented both at affordable rates that are subsidized, and those are subsidized partially by market level apartments and housing that is within that same housing stock. At least in our definition of it, and where we often see it in the world, it is majority subsidized, minority market rate, which helps to bring deeper affordability to the center of cities while actually helping to self-fund. We think this is really important because so much of the public housing in this country has been set up where it needs regular installments of budget from the city council, from the federal government, that is reliant on the whims of, whatever governance is happening at the time. And so because of that, often leads to poor funding or complete lack of funding, and then leads to disrepair. It's nonprofit or limited profit, the proceeds that come from it. And in many cases globally, there are departments that are profitable. Those proceeds must go back into the maintenance of the buildings or the creation of more housing within the social housing department. And it has been very popular, in particular, kind of the flagship city for this is Vienna in Austria, where over 90% of renters live in social housing, publicly owned housing. And over about 60%, I believe, of the city are renters. But also in Singapore, and probably the one and only example in America is Montgomery County, Maryland, just a few miles north, which has its own kind of social housing program. And there are currently proposals working through cities and states in New York, California, Colorado, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And I think particularly as we, I've heard on this call, as the whole city is grappling with how to revitalize our downtown, it is a way to bring deep affordability and housing to the center of the city near transit, keeping residents near to their communities, families, and their jobs. These are just some examples. The right and the left are a proposal on the left for Hillendale Gateway, which is in the process of, I believe, being constructed in Montgomery County. And then to the right is the Laurel, which is a social housing development currently in existence in Montgomery County. And then the middle is the largest social housing building in Vienna, Alta Erla, which has pools in the top and a beautiful park in the middle of it. There has been a real expanding movement in the states, particularly in New York, in Montgomery County, in Seattle, and California has been kind of moving a state social housing bill through its legislature. So we are not the only place moving this along. Probably New York is the furthest along right now, followed by California. I won't go over this too much, but as you know, DC has several current attempts to address the issue of affordable housing in the city. I think there are many valiant efforts and different multi-pronged approaches to tackling equity in home ownership and deeper affordability in the city. I will say that the while inclusionary zoning and the Housing Production Trust Fund have done a ton to help with that, particularly with the trust fund. We have seen year after year by their own numbers that the program has failed to provide for the kind of sectors of housing that we actually need the most, which is people making 0 to kind of like 50% of the area's median income, while providing above that more. Passing this bill, what it would actually do is it would create a department, a social housing department that would be tasked with acquiring the land and then building and managing the housing that it would build within the city limits. I'll go over the affordability of what that would look like. But yeah, actually, I'll just go into that. Well, how that would look in terms of affordability, the breakdown of that housing stock would be 30% of it would be affordable for families making zero to no money to 30% of the area's median income. Another third, 30%, would be for 31 to 80% of the area's median income, and 40% would be at a market rate. So it could be rented at any amount with an aim for profit. Affordability is the priority because that is exactly where consistent analysis of our housing market in the city has shown we actually need the most support, and where government intervention could do the most. It would be a new agency created called the Office of Social Housing. It would have a board at the top that would oversee have operational oversight with the help of tenants, which I'll talk about. This would be within the mayor and the city council's governance. This would be not unlike, or would be unlike what we've seen with the Housing Authority, which is a semi-autonomous agency. This would be within the management of the city council and mayor. We would, I'll talk about some of the kind of things we're dealing with as a coalition, but it would be majority appointed by the mayor, that board of directors, and under that's kind of how it has to be under home rule. Underneath that board, there would be an involvement of tenant governance. One of the top things I've organized with tenants in the city for a very long time, and one of the top things we hear consistently is that, when you work in Marbury Plaza and some of the buildings across the city that are really dealing with like mold, rats, infestations, the landlords in those situations are often contracting with contractors who just aren't getting the job done. Often there's some kind of crony, connection there. And the buildings would have, sorry about that, tenant leadership boards, which would help review and authorize and be able to decline contracts with contractors that were not providing the job suitable for them, and would be able to find new ones themselves, which has been a demand that a lot of tenants have pushed for in the city. And those tenant leadership boards would also get a say in having 3 or 4 of the current seats on that board that would oversee the whole program. Currently, the council, we have 7 introducers of the bill. The bill has been introduced twice in 2022 and 2023. Both council members White, Janice Lewis George, who is kind of one of the larger main introducers of this, as well as Robert White, Brianna Doe, Zachary Parker, Brooke Pinto, and Charles Allen. We don't know yet, but we think he is supportive. Matt Freeman, he hasn't had a chance to vote yet, but seems likely. And Anita Bond supported the first one, but not the second, for reasons we actually don't know. And working on and in the process of talking to Phil Mendelson, Kenny McDuffie, Christine Henderson, and Vincent Gray. Coalition right now, much of the housing affordability advocacy groups in the city, tenant union groups, as well as several climate groups in the city, because maybe I skipped it, but we a big part of this bill as well would the buildings under the social housing department would need to either have a plan to, or if they're being built, be off of gas hookups. And that is really important, as y'all probably know, because so much of our emissions as a city that contribute to climate change come from our buildings. And so it's one way of getting a large segment of buildings that, under the other electrification incentives that we have in the city, might not be able to make use of them because they are less, a little bit more cash strapped. And this would help kind of move that process along for those. I think I don't have another slide, but what we're asking in particular is for ANCs to support the bill. I think we've had 6 ANC support via resolution, and about 40 ANC commissioners in support right now. But apart from that, just interested in hearing from folks, getting feedback, but also just hearing if people are excited about this, and thoughts and concerns. And thank you for your time.
So this bill has been proposed and introduced by I believe there were 6 council members who were signers of that
Mhm.
bill?
7.
Okay, got it. Got it. And this would effectively put the city in the landlord position of being the landlord and not contracting with properties or developers that run the buildings that are what I would think of as like subsidized housing
Yeah.
services.
So the city actually could contract with companies who would exist as landlords, or like be in charge of managing that like specific buildings. They are allowed to do that kind of thing. The city does, and the board that is in charge of oversight of the department would need to see things like tracking the general mix of housing stock and affordability that the program is servicing across the city. It would like tenant leadership boards, which are a level below that, would be able to have control over, like, for instance, whether the city is the department itself is the direct landlord or a contracted business. If they were using a contractor, say for like certain types of cleanup or cleaning or work on sewage or things like that, the tenant leadership boards would have some decision-making power, whether or not to continue to work with them.
Got it. Thank you. Shirley?
Yeah. Thank you for coming up, John. I do have a few questions. What would be your annual budget request from the city to run your agency? And then also, in terms of the success of these buildings, what, in your opinion, is causing perhaps, failed affordable housing policies in our city, and how would your approach be different and lead to a different outcome?
Yeah, those are great questions. I'll start with the second one. I think that where we have seen, I think generally what we need to do is harness too often, like too many of our policies, whether it's the trust fund, whether it's other kind of like incentives we have specifically for developers to build low-income housing. Consistently, what we see is those incentives being kind of bargained down, so the developer maintains some kind of tax break or revenue from the city in some way, while not providing the initial amount of like contracted affordability that they were supposed to. And also, a lot of those the city incentives that we have exist on timelines, so they won't be, they ensure for a deeper affordability for 10 years, 20 years, but not after that. Particularly as we've like seen tenant legislation like TOPA be weakened over the last few years, the combo has led to like a particular stress on the lowest income renters. And I think what we need to do generally, and what these policies haven't done so far, is directly tie the success and the kind of like burgeoning and gentrifying and expansion, ever expanding like high income value of luxury apartments, in particular in the city, as more and more people want to move into the city, to tie that to directly funding deeper affordability so we can keep folks there. I don't see other policies in the city doing that in particular. So that's why I'm excited about it in particular. It kind of like goes around developers and Section 8 housing voucher landlords, and more directly allows us to control and own the buildings themselves and control what they're being rented to. Another issue that I would say we have, and this is more partially related to our federal government too, but DC is part of this and relies off the system, is our housing voucher program in some ways incentivizes what many call slumlords, like it's just direct payments to landlords that do not have strong criteria for how they keep these buildings. And having organized with many of these tenants, you just walk in and you're like, yep, this does not look great and shouldn't, in some ways isn't very livable. And I think more directly being able to, one, manage that kind of housing stock, and then also take in feedback from tenants who have some control over how it's being managed, I think will get us closer to more decent and respectable living situation for our lowest income tenants. And I'm forgetting your first question, sorry.
No, the first question was, what was the budget request that you would require from the city council to operate your agency? Especially if you're developing new buildings on your own or buying buildings.
Yes. So we're actually completing right now a variety of policy scenarios with the Center for Climate and Community. It's like a municipal policy oriented think tank. I think it would be somewhere in the hundreds of millions. Potentially, it depends on how big we want to make the budget, and there are a variety of ways that could happen. It could be a tax on developers through new revenue methods, or it could move money from the trust fund. We are not advocating for that, though that we've been kind of pitted against them in that way. And we think even if the budget we eventually are able to attain for a program like this is small, where we have seen it, and well, I guess before I get into the success of it, the long-term, many social housing departments, particularly in many of the examples in Singapore, in Vienna, in Paris, MoCo is literally 3 years old, so I feel like that's not exactly a great example, but have been either profitable or have been just at the bargain, so they only need an infusion of cash like every 10 years. And I think that so regardless of how big it is, usually these programs over time, because of that inclusion of a large sector of market rate housing, the financing over time can work out. And so what we're doing right now is trying to set up some scenarios, because usually with budget items like this, you don't get a kind of line item until it goes into through committee. But we want to preempt that and have a sense for community groups like yours, like ANCs, so they get a sense of what they're committing to. Yeah, that's all I'll say on that.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Honestly, in my opinion, I like the concept very much. I am not versed enough right now to put forth a resolution for this, but do you have resolutions from other ANCs?
Yes, I do. And and that's totally understandable. This is a new concept. I very much understand that. And honestly, a big part of this is more just an introduction to ANC commissioners and people generally. I'd love to follow up with some of those resolutions and some articles on the recent success of social housing departments in different places.
I would very much appreciate that. And I would like to move that we postpone a decision on this until our next meeting, at least until we can get some more information and have some more clarity around this. But we appreciate your presentation. Is there?
Yeah, no, but please send us some bit more information about what's happening in Montgomery County and Singapore and Vienna. I mean, I've heard of the concept. I'm a little familiar with it. It seems like it's worked wonders in Singapore and Vienna, and it just seems like it could work here. But at the same time, I don't want to, put the city in a position where it could come back to harm the city as well if we don't implement it properly. So I'm just not myself also not prepared to at this point to support a resolution without more information.
So with the motion on the floor, are you seconding the motion?
No,
Postpone?
postpone.
It's a postpone, okay. So can we just do a quick vote on that to put it forward? Okay. So we'll put this on to commissioners voting to table this matter until our May meeting. And John, if we could follow up with you and get some more information on this, this would be great. One of my huge concerns is city as landlord. And I know all the bureaucratic red tape that we have, and I know you heard here this evening, even getting a wheelchair lift.
Right.
is takes an act of Congress sometimes for that to happen. So
Fair.
I want to kind of know more about that, but thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you all for your time. And of course, and I'll follow up tomorrow and appreciate. Thank you.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, John. Next on our agenda is DC College Access Program, the closure of streets around the Capital One Arena in April. And Miss
Anika Shelton.
Shelton, I couldn't see your name there. Shelton, there it is.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you, guys. Hi, as you said, my name's Anika Shelton. I am here with the Shelton Group on behalf of DC College Access Program, or DC CAP. Just a little bit of background on I have a presentation, but it's okay. I can just speak quickly about it.
Put it up.
It's okay. You can do it while I'm doing it. It doesn't really matter though. It's actually a quick presentation. DC College Access Program is a private nonprofit organization whose mission is to equip DC students for college and career success by helping them access and attain meaningful college education credentials with little to no debt. So they are hosting an event on April 26th, that is next Friday, at the Capital One Arena. The purpose of the event is to host a citywide college signing day that will celebrate the hard work and dedication and achievements of Washington, D.C. high school seniors as they make their commitments to higher education. So this is DC Public Schools. As I mentioned, the event is on April 26th. It is from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. again at the Capital One Arena. The size of the event will be approximately 4,000 to 5,000 high school seniors and about 200 or so students or chaperones or family members / partner organizations. It is going to be a pep rally style type of event. There'll be bands, inspirational speakers, celebrities, athletes, performers, and other keynote speakers. This event will also be open to the press. Our ask is to have the ANC support in parking, emergency no parking. So on the screen, this is probably the best thing to just hold up there. Yeah, this is our traffic control plan, and this is showing the areas that we've requested DDOT to approve us for no parking. So it's 11 streets, and obviously it's the street surrounding the Capitol Arena. What we're proposing to DDOT is for emergency no parking signs to house the school buses during this event. We had originally thought to do close off the streets, but now we are just doing parking, and we're obviously, we have to get DDOT's approval. So we are obviously going around areas that have construction and public space areas that are already reserved for other public space endeavors or previous permits. So that is it.
Terrific. And could you just repeat the date of this again?
Yes, it's next Friday. So
next Friday.
April 26th from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. So that's the time of the event. So the staging what we're requesting would be a little bit before that. So the buses will arrive around 8 a.m. And as you see right on F Street, we have a bus drop-off location. So that will only be to keep traffic flowing for the buses. And then they have, they'll go to other areas to park. And so the event ends at 1:30. So we are imagining that by 3-ish, all of the parking will be done, or the buses will be gone.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Commissioner Lee? It's great to me. Any questions from community members? Don't see any hands up. I'd like to move that we send a letter of support for this initiative and the DC College Access Program and the closure of streets around Capital One Arena. A second. Seconded by Commissioner Lee. All those in favor? 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor of that. We will get a letter off to you right away.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate it. Great
Thank you
seeing
for
guys.
doing this. This is great.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Next on our agenda is support. I'm sorry, it's support of support. In my agenda, pardon that, support to convert the former Harrington Hotel into affordable housing. And it is Nick with us this evening.
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We want to talk about making downtown a place where people want to live, and particularly with the downtown renewal, and especially concerning the Harrington Hotel. The city has gone through a difficult period with COVID and the consequences where people don't want to come to work anymore. And so it has made an economic slump that may last for years. To her credit, the mayor has addressed this with a few revival plans that are heavily weighted toward commerce and retail and whatnot. And we need that. But a successful renewal for the city would involve not only commercial activities, sports and arts, but residents. And we don't want to overlook this. We want to have people living downtown, and that would be the idea. So now we have the opportunity with the Harrington Hotel. If they close their doors in December, and they're available for affordable housing. So we need an effort. My name is Nick Deladon, and I'm with the Wardman Hotel Strategy Team. A few years ago, we tried to get the city to buy the Wardman Hotel up in Woodley Park for affordable housing. And the city did not take advantage of the opportunity and went to a developer. We're still up there fighting for more affordable housing. But in any case, now we have picked up this idea of the Harrington Hotel, and we want to draw a storm of interest activity to the hotel to see if something can be done before it becomes another missed opportunity. The Harrington Hotel sits on 11th Street at E. It fills up the whole block. There's 242 rooms, and it was built 100 years ago when it was more customary for people to live in hotels as residents. And so the conversion might be a lot easier. The mayor has proposed incentives for converting office buildings, and they present problems. So they take a long time. It's not all that assured. There are not a whole lot of buildings that are lining up for the conversion. But the Hotel Harrington would be ideal, one would think. In any case, we don't want to miss the opportunity to do that. So we have talked to city officials. The mayor asked Demped to speak with us, the deputy mayor for planning economic development. We talked to some of the council members, and we have gotten support from grassroots organizations, including the Fair Budget Coalition, TENAC, DC for Democracy, DuPont East Civic Action Association, People Power Action, One DC, and ANC 3D up in University Park. And tonight we're asking you if you would support the concept, the idea of converting urging the city to take some action to see that it's converted to residences, and that would help with the renewal of downtown. So it's just that simple. I hope we can interest you in that. We're trying to, just like the fellow that spoke about social housing, I was a little surprised at that because the bill is already on the record. And this might be a project for social housing. The bill, if it passes, would provide for a prototype, a trial social action project. The other one, yes.
the other, right.
So this is open. We're a little bit, we certainly would agree to a social housing, but affordable housing would be part of that.
Right.
And it's an opportunity that we don't want to be missed. So is it something that you can support?
definitely. S- Who, I guess that when the hotel closed, do, do you know what the plans are for that?
Cushman and Wakefield are marketing it.
Oh, first.
I think they will, it's the valued, the assessed value is 25 million, which is really pennies in the consideration. The city would do well to purchase it. It would be a great investment. But in any case, I understand that they have 3 bids to continue it as a hotel.
Oh.
And I don't know, you know, the Cushman and Wakefield is not going to share their information with us. But we know one developer that approached them, and I don't think it was successful. We spoke ourselves to a noted developer in this area, Jonathan Rose, and they said they were not, it did not meet their needs. It's not exactly what they would do. Demped also said that. Demped said, try to interest a developer. We've had our experience is kind of what the fellow with social housing was saying, is that the developer has a profit motive.
Yeah.
They take the profit, they don't live here, they leave, they don't give us exactly what we want. So we're hoping that the city would take more active role.
And who would we be encouraging at the city? Would it be the mayor's office? Would it be, it says like
Someone.
Demped said,
It seems as though if there is a will, there's a way.
yeah,
If we can entice their interest, I think it is exciting. I think it's interesting. Imagine people living downtown. It seems to me that you need people living down here. That's got a big component. You just can't have a sports arena.
No.
I mean, thank goodness they decided to stay.
Yeah.
But you need people.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe 40 years ago, they made a decision just the opposite. It turned downtown into office buildings.
Correct.
And now it's coming back to bite them
Yeah.
with the change.
When I received this email from you, I thought that this was a very interesting concept.
It's exciting.
To do, yes, and definitely wanted to know more about it.
I included in the literature that I sent you, there is a nice story that was published in Biz Now, which is informative at least.
Right.
So we have our fingers crossed. We want to keep pushing. There's a lot that can be gained by popular support. If people become excited about it, the wheels would turn.
Right.
We think.
Right. Exactly.
We're hoping.
Officially.
How many units of housing do you plan on creating?
Well, I don't have a plan. I'm not a
Okay, so-
developer, God knows, but there's a space there right now. There are 242 rooms. I imagine that some of them are suites. They're already. And I wouldn't, I would get an architect for heaven's sakes. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just move into what they've got. We want to make it, times have changed, but we want to be able to accommodate families. And that's what hotels do not do anymore.
Right.
It would change the complex of downtown. We need, in addition to that, but it'd be the beginning. We'd need schools,
Yeah.
supermarkets, a lot of things like that, which would kind of ensure that downtown become lively and have a base for future.
So Hotel Harrington was a budget hotel that,
Yes, it was low
Right.
cost.
It was
That's right.
budget, right.
Yes. Mhm.
you know, and I've been to Harry's Bar. And it was always very busy with, families that, that wanted to, stay in DC, but, wanted a more budget option. So in one sense, it was very, it did bring, tourists to downtown DC who ended up, staying in the area and frequenting the commerce and retail spaces. And then it gave them an opportunity to walk to all the sites in the area. That said, having local residents is also, there's something to be said about having some local residents as well.
Well, it would strengthen your hand. You're a resident here. Am I
Right.
right? Yep.
Yeah.
And it may be that you have needs here that would be complemented by other people that live down here. The mayor is planning to bring 15,000 people into downtown area. I'm not exactly sure where they're going to live, but this is an option.
What is?
It can be an option that slips through our fingers, and you just say, well, it's still a live wire. We could take advantage of it. In any case, I think that having people live downtown is an important component to the success of this city.
And in terms of, you said affordability, like was there an affordability mix that you're thinking of, like that you're trying to pursue? Is there an ideal?
At this point, I would be happy with the term. It is a broad term, but it is not, it's not exclusive. It's not market rate. I went to the opening or the announcement. The mayor was there at the ELLE. It's an office building that's being converted, but it's going to be very high priced. And it's easy enough to get rich people to move downtown. It's not exactly what we want. So we'd like to see affordable housing just to insert the concept that it wouldn't be all exclusive and rich people.
But how would you, who's operating this building, this affordable housing? I guess the question is, what is your role in this housing development?
We're trying to create a storm of interest before the opportunity lapses.
Like the city had proposed funding to buy a property for something similar to this. I'm not sure if that is in this upcoming budget or not. But it does promote another opportunity for them to potentially do.
Well, there are nonprofit developer organizations
Right.
that will assure that some of it is market rate, but a good portion of it is not. And there are levels of affordability. To my mind, if you're going to accept 80% affordability, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why there's some pressure among grassroots organizations to say, could you just make it a little bit lower than that?
Yeah.
And IZ doesn't apply downtown. IZ would allow for 8% of whatever the units are. If there's 100 units, 8 units would be affordable. And if they're 80%, it's not all that affordable.
I would move that we send a letter of support to the I'm thinking to the mayor's office,
Excellent.
to Councilmember Pinto's office,
Yes.
and DHS and general services.
You want to address the planning agencies, DEMPED, OP.
DEMPED and Office of Planning,
Yeah.
encouraging them to consider
Yep.
this property for affordable housing, conversion to affordable housing.
However they may see fit to do that. And I think that we were really encouraged when Councilmember Fruman's complimented us. It was a very kind thing for him to say that the work that we did at the Wardman brought it into people's consciousness. So people beginning to think that it might be possible. We're still working there.
Yeah.
And he says, you're doing the same thing with the Harrington. And so we got our fingers crossed. We'll want to work in that direction. If we do it now and we fail, it is not a loss because the air will have changed and then there'll be another opportunity somewhere down the road. And people will have been that much further, a few more people, clamoring for it, that sort of thing. So it's a long range goal but we have to start somewhere.
Got it. So there is a motion on the floor.
One question before we vote, or before I second it. Why did Jonathan Rose turn this down? Because
They said they were not suited. No, we thought that would be an ideal. They've done wonderful work with Via Verde up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's really a model, but they work a lot in the district, and they were recommended to us even by DEMPED. Go and talk to DEMPED. Go and talk to Renton. So we got their attention, and we talked to them for an hour and a half, and they said, we're not set up for that. And I don't know exactly what that means. DEMPED told us that we're not set up for that too. Well, how are we going to get affordable housing here if nobody's set up for it? I think that might be the problem, frankly. If there are enough people clamoring for it and we actually run into a wall that says we can't do this, then things have to change. And I think we're really at that verge where we're.
Did they give you any advice as to how to go about doing this? Like
DEMPED?
No, Jonathan Rose, because I'm familiar with his work and his
Yeah.
organization. So I'm surprised that given such a prominent location that he wouldn't be all over this. Did he give you?
They
any
have
advice?
projects here in the district.
Right, but he didn't give you any advice as to, why he didn't say anything more, but why.
Well, we
he
talked for an hour and a half, but it was a no. And it wasn't like we don't like it. It was like, we can't do that. And I don't, who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Well, thank you very much.
And all those in favor? 2 out of 2 commissioners voting in favor of that. We will send that letter off and I will copy you, Mr. Deladon.
Deladon, yes, exactly right. Thank you.
Awesome. Terrific.
This is democracy working.
Democracy working. Exactly. Thank you so much. Is anybody on this evening for our next topic, which is stop project pipes? This has come up on several of our ANC meetings, and we've been delaying a response to this. This is a project that is being funded, that is by DC Gas, I believe, to replace all the pipes in DC versus repairing the pipes as they start to leak, I guess.
Right.
I do not believe that the way that this is presented to us as an environmental concern is what we should be acting on as an ANC. But we should be looking at this from a perspective of the impact on consumers of the services in the district and the potential impact of passing the cost of the replacement of the pipes onto consumers. I am not knowledgeable enough to weigh in on that as a commission, and I would move that the commission at this time not make a decision on stop projects pipes.
I'll second that.
And all those in favor? So 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor of not providing a response to this request. Next on our agenda is ABC, alcoholic beverage, cannabis, and licensing. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first item is, I'm gonna just call it by its trade name, Logos DC at 509 7th Street Northwest. This is a new retailer's Class C restaurant license. Mr. Morris is not able to join us this evening to present this case with us this evening, nor is the applicant due to a conflict that they had. This is I'm going to share my screen here so that we can all see this. This is at 509. Whoops. Did I share my screen? No. This is at, there we go. This is at 509 7th Street Northwest. This is the establishment of a restaurant serving West African cuisine and creative cocktails, beer and wine. The total load is 300 with seating for 300 inside. The entertainment endorsement is with dancing and cover charge, carry out and delivery endorsement. If we can just, the hours are kind of standard hours of the establishment. Where is 509?
I think that's District Chop House.
District Chop House.
Mhm. Yeah, they shut down about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, they did. Okay. Let's just make sure that that is in fact the location.
Yes, please check.
So that's the location.
I'll check as well.
I meant to do this earlier when I got the notice and I did not. Apologize. That's 509 7th Street.
Yeah, District Chop House.
Okay. That is definitely it. Okay. I do not have any objection to this. It's a West African entertainment with dancing, cover charge. I believe that borders does that border? That does not border a residential building.
Terrell Place is on the corner.
It's on the corner.
But it's not, I don't think they share a wall.
Got it. I would, does any community members have any comment or suggestion? Since the protest deadline is on May 6th, I would move that we send a letter of support for this establishment.
I second.
And all those in favor?
Sorry, the Terrell Place, the condo building is directly abuts it. They do share a wall.
They do share a wall.
So that's Terrell Place up there. That is the Chop House. And we have 2 centers.
Yeah. I that makes a little bit of a difference since they do abut the wall. As I would modify my if I may, we have a second. I have a second on the floor, so we have to take a vote. I want to withdraw my motion. And I want to say that we not send a letter of support for this establishment and that we contact Terrell Place.
Well, then we also get more information from
just
the
making sure
restaurant as well,
that
about
they-
hours and.
Right, they
Exactly.
are aware of this establishment going in, but we will not publicly endorse the establishment
For now.
for now.
Yes, I second that motion.
Okay, and all those in favor? Okay, so 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor for that. Next on our agenda is Super Investments, trade name F Street Fine Wines and Liquors at 919 F Street Northwest, requesting the termination of a settlement agreement that they have in place. Is Mr. Jackson with us this evening?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for having me. Hope all is well.
Definitely. So
So
I know that you outlined this a little bit for me. Could you outline this for the other commissioners and the public? For us?
yes. So Logan Circle Liquors originally operated back in 2002. They were originally located on the corner of 11th and Rhode Island Avenue Northwest back in 2002. That's when they entered into the settlement agreement. And at the time, that area was not under reconstruction or redevelopment. It was kind of a difficult area to provide service to. So they decided to get out of their lease and to find a more suitable location. And that's when they relocated to 919 F Street Northwest. And since they've been at 919 F Street Northwest, this has been a reduction in foot traffic because, as you know, a couple of the businesses in that area has shut down. And most of the clientele that he has is, believe it or not, is from the tourists that go to the souvenir store and the hotel that's directly across the street. And that settlement agreement restricted his hours to like 10 o'clock. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, he wanted to go to midnight. And a lot of the tourists and people from the hotels, they just didn't want to purchase 6-packs, but they wanted to purchase like international beers and singles. So he's not selling like single malt liquors and things of that sort. And he's not selling like wines of half pints, but it's half pints of more upscale wines and liquors. And that's what a lot of people has been asking him if he can sell that. But due to the settlement agreement that was signed in 2002 at another location, it's restricting his hours. And also that's a high rent district and his rent went up. So in order to sustain some sort of quality of living for him and his family, so we was asking for the settlement agreement to be terminated because he wanted to extend his hours of operation and provide a service to basically the hotel and the tourists that come into the area. Because other than that, it's really no foot traffic after a certain hour. And believe it or not, the Smith right next door, a couple of people came in there to purchase a bottle of wine to take it to the Smith because it was much cheaper. And the Smith, they can you can bring wine into the Smith, but they charge you a bottling fee or corking fee, they call it. So if you have a special event and they don't carry the product, you can bring it in with you.
Interesting. That's great to know. I have a concern. We have right down the street. We have a nightclub, as you know, on that block.
Yes.
And one of the major concerns is that, and we see this all the time, is that people consuming, there's a line that forms outside and people are consuming alcohol, et cetera, on the street, which they're supposed to be regulating as far as the nightclub goes, not your establishment.
Right.
How would the sale of singles, like I could see people going in there and just buying singles and standing in line. Am I thinking about this incorrectly?
Well, the singles are, like I said, it's more like international. So it's not like it's a malt liquor or something that, in my opinion, that a person would purchase to want to go inside an establishment. Most of the establishment, they go in there to buy bottles or, some sort of liquor, but not singles.
Yes.
And matter of fact, right now he's open when the nightclub open. He doesn't have any clientele from the nightclub coming in there, basically.
So single bottles of beer, it'd be.
Well, it's cans. It's like Mr. Singer's on the phone, so he's on the line. So it's more like international, like a German beer, or they have a Japanese beer, but they in singles and that's 6-packs.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
It's international win.
Yeah, it's more craft beers that we're trying to sell here, and high-end liqueurs and wines. The clientele that we're trying to target is mostly from the hotel across the street. If you're visiting the city, sometimes you don't want to buy a full 6-pack. Sometimes you just want to try a single craft beer out. It's all very high-end stuff. We haven't gotten too much traffic from the nightclub, and the products we sell aren't something that you would want to consume before going into a nightclub. They're much more expensive than a typical nightclub night.
I'm familiar. I know the shop.
Yeah, oh, I know the shop. I love the shop. So,
I don't have a problem with that. What's your concern?
Currently, we also only open to the latest at 10 p.m. so that people get to the club at around 11 or 12. So we're not even around when they're waiting for the club.
right, right. And I would be, like the later hours to me would be, like, I have no objection
Mhm.
to the later hours.
Mhm.
For the sale. I just am a little concerned about the selling of singles in this this manner, but I understand what your I understand the clientele here.
And you know, back in the day, and as you know, I used to head up the liquor board for over 20 years. So back in the day, the singles was introduced to basically try to eliminate public intoxication because it was right there on, I believe it was 5th and 8th Street where that shelter was. A lot of people was going to that grocery store and buying singles and hanging outside and urinating in public.
Yeah.
But now that area is more developed and that area has high clientele. So we don't think that the same, I guess, circumstance would occur with that location as it used to have back in the day.
Got it.
I'd also like to note that most liquor stores in this area already do sell single cans and half pints. It's just we're kind of cut out from the mix. So,
Got it.
And Rick, which other liquor shop are you referring to in the area?
Central Liquors. I know it's a block and a half down. Yeah, Washington Liquors. They from what I understand sell single beers and half pints. So it's kind of driving those hotel customers that we're trying to target from directly across the street to head over there if they want a little bit less than what we typically are allowed to sell.
Also, the location in Chinatown, right next to the alley, I believe that's 6th Street, Walking Road, 6 and H.
They sell singles too?
Yes.
So you're asking for us to, so in order to do this, Mr. Jackson, you're asking us to send a letter to APCA indicating that we approve the termination of the existing settlement agreement from
2002.
But yeah, 2002, and to allow the establishment to expand its hours and to sell individual, do you say individual bottles or individual?
No. So if you terminate the settlement agreement, then we would have to submit another application to APCA to extend the hours.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's basically just to terminate the settlement agreement.
So that's what we're doing. Okay.
And the settlement agreement applied to a different location from 2002?
Yes, we were located originally on 11th and Rhode Island Avenue Northwest back in 2002. So the settlement agreement normally follows the license, even if you move to a different area.
Yes, and the settlement agreement has a lot of stuff in it that doesn't apply anymore.
Exactly. And believe it or not, some people that's the signature to it has passed away.
Yes, yes. I would like to move that we send a letter to APCA approving send a letter to APCA supporting the termination of the existing settlement agreement.
Correct.
A second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
So 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor of that. And I'm assuming that will they re-placard this for the extended hours?
When we apply for the extension of hours, they will.
They will. Okay, got it. Okay. That sounds great. Yes, I think this is a great, definitely a great benefit to the community, having this business here. So we appreciate your business and the support that you are giving to the community. So definitely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is Felder DC Holdings LLC, trade name the St. Regis Hotel at 923 16th Street. Substantial change to the retailer's Class C license. And we have, I believe, Manila.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. This is Manal Mahmood with Malleus O'Brien Sandground. I'm also joined by the St. Regis General Manager, Mr. Elias Asali as well. And we're hoping to add a sidewalk cafe on K Street, and it will be 31 seats.
So you're just adding a sidewalk cafe with 31 seats?
Correct.
Oh, well, that sounds
great. Is there
Um,
room though?
Is there room on that street for that?
Yeah, there is room. We're not doing the sidewalk cafe permit, but that's also in the process. But I've seen the floor plans and they obviously abide by the the
ADA
spacing and everything like that. So there will be room.
Got it. And you want this will be open this summer, you believe?
That really depends on how soon they can get in front of the Public Space Committee. I know that's a little bit more laborious in terms of timing, but ideally, hopefully, if everything goes as planned, they would like to open this summer.
Awesome. I think it's great, and thank you, General Manager, for being on here with us this evening.
Pleasure, thank you.
As well. I think this is great. Outdoor cafes, outdoor seating. So I move that we send a letter of support for the extension of the license to the sidewalk cafe.
Right. One question, was it the sidewalk cafe, did you say it was on K Street or 16th Street?
It will be on K Street.
Yeah, I second.
Thank you so much,
All
Commissioners.
those in favor?
Aye.
So 2 of 2 commissioners voting in favor of that. And it sounds like you don't need a stipulated license for that.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner Schenkel.
Thank you. Thank you.
so
Have a great
much. We
evening.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other agenda items on the agenda. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, May 14th at 6 p.m. In both hybrid meeting in person and online. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. And I'd like to have a motion I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, we have to vote. We need a bio break.